hello and welcome to Sunday Assembly Atlanta. I'm so glad you decided to join us and come out on this lovely Father's Day. Thanks to all the dads out there. And for those, for those who have like a more difficult relationship or don't have their fathers with them today, thoughts out to you too, because you matter as well. But I got to have lunch and that felt good, so that's good. So, Sunday Assembly Atlanta, you are here, and thank you. We are a secular community, so we like to do all the cool things that churches do, just without that God part, because secular people also deserve to have community and joy and thoughtfulness and being together. It's all wonderful stuff. So we like to live this one life we know we have the best we can by living better, helping often, and wondering more. We have these large assemblies where we get together, and we have small group events, throughout the month. This assembly is get out the map. So we're thinking about places we've traveled to, and specifically the people we've met there who are living, just as complicated. Like they're the main character of their story too, right? Like everybody has as rich and as fulfilling lives, as we do. And I'm looking forward to hearing, from Jared and Leah's trip and from everybody, in the conversation of the Icebreakers about those journeys and those travels. Sunday Assembly, we've got lots of different pieces to our assemblies, and one of the ones we like to do is to have music. And this time we're going to kick it off with a bunch of music right at the beginning that I hope you'll enjoy. Hopefully you'll recognize some of these. They're very thematic. I think I'm going to pass over the clicker to someone else because we are about to do some songs. So please enjoy as I go back into the drum set.
Here's we sing along if you know those words.
This group is not from Decatur. Hooray! I also know that So Andy probably didn't know this because it's happening way earlier in assembly than it usually does. But we're shaking things up this time. We're trying some different things. And it looks like maybe Marla's doing a last minute one, so don't worry, I'll vamp. Oh, don't worry, I can vamp. I know how to vamp. So Andy's walking up here with a box that may have, I don't know, just a few cards, we don't know. But these are things that you're invited to at the welcome table to write, hey, here's something that's happening in my life, big, small, good, bad. I don't say it doesn't matter because it does matter. They are all welcome. And this is a great time where someone will read them out, and we all get to know what's happening in our community. And they can also be anonymous if you've got something that you need to get off your chest, but we prefer if people don't know who it is. That is also more than welcome. So we're going to let Andy finally. It took long enough, jeez. Finally, we're up on the stage. Let's give him a hand.
I usually don't sit down for this, do I? I sit down for the meditation.
So formal.
Yeah,
So
very formal today. For those of you who are new to this part of our assembly, this is the Life Happens segment, and as Ross said, it's an opportunity for us to jot down something that particularly good or bad that's maybe going on in your life from the last time we saw you, so that we all can kind of connect with each other through these little index cards, which I will read short. Oh, I know why I brought this over here. It's so that I can sign it. There we go. It's like I've never done this before. Very new. Thank you. Where am I? So I have not reviewed these because this is kind of sudden. So I'm hoping that I can read them. This first card is from Marla, who says, Andy, that's me, and I have the first new baby relative we've had in 25 years. Andy's first biological niece. We're so excited, and if you want, I have about 1,000 pictures to show you how beautiful she is. Marla's sitting over there, in case you don't know her. I'm so surprised by how excited I am. Thank you, Marla. Thank you, Marla, and my brother. And something that I forgot to mention, which Nick reminded me of actually, is that we're using Tim's great idea, which is that, yeah, claps are great for a positive thing, and maybe if it's a negative thing, we can give snaps to show our support for that person. I also failed to mention that sometimes these cards are submitted anonymously, and that's fine too. Maybe something is a little too tender to put your name on, and that's fine. This card is from me. And I say, I recently completed a series of core coaching classes and I'm looking forward to a certification program, expecting that it will be even more helpful in my life, career, etc. That's This one is from Mish, who shows me how to pronounce it, which thank you, Mish. I recently downsized from an apartment to one furnished room. Now my roommate/landlord has turned out to be toxic. I don't know when yet, but please see me if you are open to helping me move. Thanks. Mish, raise your hand, please. Thank you. Sorry, Mish. The next card is from Dan B, who says, pain has finally decreased. Total in RC plane yesterday. Oh, so that's claps. Totaled an RC plane yesterday, that would be snaps. All in all, it's a net gain, so I guess snap, clap. Yes, thank you. Thank you, Dan. Let's see, this is from Lea, who says, we have been home for a month, and I am still struck constantly by the differences between the US and South America, both positive and negative. Thank you, Lea. The next card is from Nick and Michelle, who say, did you all write this to, like? Yeah. Okay, awesome. Thank you. I don't know why I asked. It is hard to believe that the last assembly we attended was in 2018. Is that how normal people say that? Yeah. 2018. Traveling, business ventures, and house guests have all chipped in to keep us away. I'm glad that we were able to keep this Sunday free to reconnect with all of you. Thank you both. Us too. And this last card is from Ben Bradley, who says, I need resume help. I haven't found a job and I'm running out of resources. Thank you, Ben. Can folks who may be able to help or direct Ben do that? Thank you. And that's it. This is Marla's card, which I'm not going to read again. So, thank you.
Thank you very much, Andy. Something I'm realizing is I don't know where the clicker is to advance the slides. Jared has it. So I'm at the whims of Jared at the moment. So pray for me or don't, depending on your style. Yeah, so if you could, oh, we're already there. We've advanced the slide, and I guess it makes sense that he would have it, because he is jumping the gun, because he is the next person who's going to come up here. I mean, I probably don't need to explain it, because you're probably going to explain the trip you all went on, but Jared and I have been away for a very long time, and they I hope, relish the opportunity to share some of the awesome people they've met and some of those experiences here today. And that'll follow with conversations about these kinds of things too in our Icebreaker later. So let's welcome up Jared to talk about
Raise your hands if you were at the rum giveaway party before we left. Okay, we went there. I'm going to hog the mic for a little while up here, we're gone for 10 months. I chronicled the whole thing on my blog. We rode buses, boats, trains, planes, ferries, eating live animals? No, we never rode a live animal, but I think the option was there a couple times. I could just go give you the slideshow of what we did on our summer vacation. I could spend hours up here talking about the great cities, the wonderful vistas, the natural wonders, the erupting volcanoes, the whales jumping out of the water, and the unusually large number of women walking around with machetes. But that's not what the specific topic of the talk today is going to be about. What I want to get up here and do is talk about, we didn't just go on this trip in vacation mode. We really wanted to immerse in the culture, get a feel for the culture, experience life on the ground as much as traveling Americans can of what it is to live in South America. And on the way, we connected with different people who kind of helped introduce us and bring us and help us learn more about the culture and the way of life and just how things can be done differently than we do in the US. And a lot of these ways, some of these ways we can actually bring back with us and are changing our lives here based on what we learned in the trip down there. So we're gonna flash a few maps up. I'm gonna give you the key. For each country, you're gonna see the route we took. And we'll have markers placed every time where we felt we had meaningful connection with someone on the trip. And I can't talk about every single person we met. So any place where you see a heart is somewhere where one of the people I'm about to talk about lives and is from. So we flew into Quito, Ecuador, which is the part on the north there, and immediately left the mainland of the country to go have a vacation for 10 days in the Galapagos. Read about it on the blog, it's a long story. We came back, and we spent 2 weeks in a Spanish immersion school. And part of the school experience was you didn't just go to school every day and learn Spanish, but you lived with a Spanish-speaking family who, part of the deal was they would not speak English to you at all. You had to communicate and converse with your host family with the Spanish that you were learning every day. Our hostess in Quito was named Raitt. This is a picture of her and me on my birthday, which was during the first week we were there, I think, in class. And this is her introducing me to Spanish culture by slamming my face into my birthday cake. That blur above my head is her hand pushing me into the chocolate. Apparently it's a thing down there. Or maybe not, I don't know. Who's to say? But we lived for 2 weeks with Lorraine and her family, which was her daughter and someone else who was staying there. And this was a nice, 3-bedroom, 1.5 bath apartment in the printing press district of Quito. It seems all the businesses in Quito are kind of grouped by what kind of things they made or sold. So we were living in the people printing business cards district area. So we learned a lot in those first 2 weeks just about daily life and how you live at home and how you get by at home. And a lot of it is about minimalism. And it's not, this wasn't a poor family by any means. This was a nice place we were living in. But it's just, you are minimal and you're frugal in your use of resources. She would buy ingredients every day or every other day, just shopping to cook the next meal or the next two. Meals were simple. This was from, not from her place, but from a restaurant in a food court, but There's the standard caldo de gallo, the chicken soup with an egg and possibly a potato floating in it, or like I had a fried something with rice and a plantain, and that's what a meal was, just something simple, a couple ingredients put together. The interesting thing Marini did was she did not refrigerate her leftovers. Whatever she cooked and it wasn't used, she left in the pan, covered it up, and that would be used the next day in whatever the next recipe was. So it just cycled on the next, you'd get some more ingredients or not, or just, but you didn't like have a bunch of things in the fridge and refrigerate them all and like pick them out or maybe they went bad. She would like, whatever you didn't use one day, got used the next. Lighting, there were plenty of light bulbs in this house, but they never ever turned on any more than they absolutely needed. If you weren't in the room, the light was off. Electricity costs money, lots of stuff is gas powered, but none of the houses have gas piped in the way we think of. They sell the gas, a guy comes by on a truck, and they would sell gas in propane tanks out of trucks. So you would listen for the gas truck coming by. She would just run out, grab it, hey, need more gas, and come in with a big gas tank, whatever. This was much more benign in Quito. In Loja, further down in Ecuador, the gas truck played a song that sounded like a demented ice cream truck over and over and over again. You could hear it all over the city, about drove me mad after 4 days. If you go to my blog, you can actually hear the demented song. But and of course, water was also something conserved, and water in Ecuador, Peru, and Bolivia, the first 3 countries we visit, you don't drink out of the tap. In fact, you don't even brush your teeth with tap water. So we had bottled water that we would use just to wash the toothbrush. And you could shower in the water. You could wash dishes with the thing, but just, you make sure you dry everything out. While on the topic of water, let me explain how something else works in South and other parts of Latin America, and I expect elsewhere in the world. So, hold on. I'm getting a step here. Ingredients. Sorry, I'm getting myself. Ingredients. Like I said, you would buy what you needed for the day. This is a spice store, so you don't buy a bottle of spice. You get like however many ounces you want of whatever is there in the open. You can get something from the local convenience store, right there. To be fair, they had actual convenience stores, tiendas, they called them in Ecuador. They changed the word around the place, but also people just on the street selling everything, bags of chips and cokes and whatever you want there. Or you could just buy like a head of a pig if you needed one, for whatever reason. These last 3 photos are from the street market in Otavalo. The street markets were a lot of where you would shop for stuff, and so grocery stores. They had grocery stores as well, but a lot of things you find individual small stores and street markets. Okay, water. This is how you get hot water in Latin America. We call this the electrocution shower or the death head shower, because there's no hot water heater the way we think of in a building. There's no hot water from the faucet in the sink. If you want hot water to shower with, you turn on the tap, and this thing comes on automatically, and it electrically heats the water as you're showering. This is not Lorraine's. Lorraine's looked much more safe than this one. But I believe the first one of these we ever saw in Guatemala was, it was kind of like this. There were some exposed wires. Why not? Why not have exposed electrical wires in your shower? Actually, I think one place we were in, there was like a light switch that was in the shower stall itself. So that's a different story.
Convenience.
Anyway, if you're ever in a place where you happen to have one of these, the trick is you turn the water pressure on to the lowest amount of pressure you possibly can to get the electricity to kick on and heat it, and no more. Because if you have any kind of like, we want a full blast hot water shower, it's going to be cold, because the water is moving too quickly through the shower head for it to heat it. So if you want hot water, you have to just barely turn the water on just enough to get a trickle coming out and turn the heat on. And then you adjust, like if it's too hot, you put a little more pressure and so forth. But this is the truth of daily life. This is how people live in South America, in Central America, I'm sure in other parts of the world as well, where you don't have large appliances. Even in a nice place, you are frugal. You use only like as much electric as you need to heat the water that you're using right now and no more. So it's a big shock coming back to the US as it is, been telling people just how much resources we use and consume without even thinking about it compared to, just the mindfulness that they have in South America, and Lorraine taught us while we're living with her, of just how much resources are using, how many ingredients, how much water, how much electricity, and just turn it down, turn it off. Moving on from Quito, we traveled around a bit to see the sites in Ecuador. I could show you pictures for ages, but we got down to the south end of Ecuador, and we started to meet up with people who we connected with through a site called couchsurfing.com. Couchsurfing is one of those things where people can say, hey, I will host you to come stay with me, you can sleep on my couch, you can sleep in my spare room. It's kind of like Airbnb, but free. People just looking for guests, looking for company. But you can also use it as a place just to meet people and say, hey, let's go have coffee, let's go have dinner. I'd like to talk with you, and you wouldn't mind showing me around your home city. So we would connect with people. Some of the first people we connected with this way were Santiago and Darwin. He's standing next to us. We met them one night in the town of Loja, which is like the farthest south, largest city in Ecuador. They took us out to a good place to eat, and we just chatted for a few hours. And we talked about how, we talked about going to the national park and climbing up and seeing the vista, but we weren't sure about transportation and how we're going to get down there. Like, was the bus? They're like, oh no, we'll take you. Just completely unasked for that. We'll go tomorrow. We'll go down Tuck Mountain. So yeah, they next day arranged to pick us up. I believe Santiago borrowed a family member's Jeep, and we paid for the gas because why not, and they drove us up to the national park. I can't remember the name there, and they led us up the easy walking trail to the Mirador. I think there were more trails that could be taken, but that's 2,900 meters above sea level, I believe. No, about 9,000 feet, so yeah, we've been in the Andes this whole time, but still, you change elevation rapidly. But yeah, just out of the sheer generosity, instead of us having to figure our way around, Darwin and Santiago just said, hey, come with us, we'll take you, we'll drive you, we'll show you the site of our country. That was a cool thing that we saw in Ecuador, especially we noticed, was a lot of people taking the time to enjoy the beauty and the national parks and the scenery and the tourist attractions in their own country. There are people who live in Orlando who never go to Disney World. Right, it's just there. I grew up in Louisiana, and I only went to Mardi Gras in New Orleans once in my life. But in Ecuador, when we went to some of the parks and the trails and the beaches, we were there with other Ecuadorians who were enjoying their own country, their own winters. Also, because they provided us transportation, this lets me segue into another thing we learned traveling around South America, and that's transportation. Public transportation is a thing in South America. It's the thing, it's the big thing. Yes, people own vehicles, but not most of them, I would say. Not a lot of them. A lot of people, most people use the public transportation system. So a lot of the cities, even the smaller towns, have some kind of a bus network, rail, collectivos, which are these little small vans where you just hop on, you pay the cashier, the guy a certain amount, and they have certain stops they make, and they might even go out of their way a little, drop someone off. This photo of a bus we did not take for tourism purposes or to show people, this is what buses look like. We took this picture of the bus so that we could recognize the one that went back to our house. Because the bus lines in Quito were on Google Maps, but it wasn't very accurate or up to date about, and of course on Google would say, oh yeah, you take bus route number 191, you take bus number 57. None of the buses had the number anywhere on the outside. They just had a list, and we saw this in lots of places, they just had like a list in the window of like all the neighborhoods they passed through. So in the end, we had to figure out which bus it was, and we took a picture of the front so we could recognize, okay, we see these neighborhoods listed, this goes where we want to go to get back to Lorraine's house. And they're cheap. What was 25 cents a ride. And of course, you could change buses in 25 cents, but you could get up and down the length of Quito by bus. You gotta be patient, it takes a while, you gotta wait for the next one to come, lots of start and stop traffic, but without having to figure out drive or walk in these cities, and believe me, you do not want to walk up and down Quito, because it is not built in the Andes, it's built on the Andes sideways. But everywhere we went, we would use buses and public transportation to get around town. Now these are the airplanes we flew to get around the continent. Because people traveling from city to city, again, they take the bus. So there are, I mean, here in the US we have Greyhound and that's about it, right? There are dozens of long-haul bus companies all around the continent. Some will cross borders, some are specific to a single country. There are websites that you can look up and aggregate and says which bus routes to take, or all the competing companies. This is a standard double-decker. You can pay for the cheap seats upstairs, or you can pay for the more expensive ones downstairs that were wider, first class, could lay back flat. When we got to Brazil, the buses that get the downstairs one, it would lay flat all the way like a bed in a sleeper. It was awesome. The ones in Ecuador weren't quite that nice, but actually, I was lying. I think this one was Peru. But, you know, this is how you get around. This is how you travel. This is how we traveled. We didn't rent a car except a couple times to get to places where buses wouldn't go. Otherwise, this is how we flew around the continent. So we crossed over into Peru, and Peru was funny. Peru, if I'm being completely honest here, is probably our least favorite country of all the countries we visited. However, and on couch surfing, it was about 50-50 whether we actually were able to hook up and meet with someone, or they stood us up or never appeared, or in one case were like so creepy we wanted to get away and were afraid of them. But the people we did connect with in Peru were some of the most awesome people we met on the trip. So, for example, way up in the north, in Chachapoyas, which is the most farthest north part you see there, we hooked up with Leo. Leo took us out around the town of Chachapoyas a couple nights in a row, showed us the nice, cheap places to get good local food, and he took us out to this bar where they specialize in liqueurs made from fruits of the Amazon that you've never heard of. So it's like had a special plate to bring out like shot glasses and like 12 liqueurs. Each one's a different fruit from the Amazon that I don't even know the names because we don't know how them, never seen them, never will see them again, whatever. And of course, you sample each one, decide which one you like, and get a whole bottle of whichever one you do like, and drink that. Leo is no longer in Chachapoyas. He's now moved over to, well, he was a teacher at one of the colleges there. He's now moved over to Sulan, still in the north of Peru, but in the more deserty, less Andes places. And one thing that you kind of learned here is that the young people in South America have no compulsion against picking up and moving and going where the work is, and to follow their career, what they want to do. They will work whatever jobs they have to, they'll move around. At first, you know, the impression from afar that I had South America was to be very traditional. People are very connected to families, which is true, you know, so people like, and I was thinking they might just kind of stay in one place and like these communities would be kind of insular. The young people, no. They get up, they move, they travel their country, they go around, they work wherever they can. They leave the country they can, they come back. So Leo was certainly doing that. The same for the next person we met, Maria in Trujillo. She has she again met us out for drinks. She took us to where they have this coffee they do in Peru, where they give you like what is hot water and this little vial of coffee concentrate that you pour into the water and mix it up, and that's your coffee. Leah really enjoyed it. I'm not a coffee person, so I didn't partake. But Maria is a PhD engineering professor. She was working at the university in Trujillo. She again has moved since we met her. But she was the only female engineering professor in her department in the school. I mean, a big thing in South America is the machismo. You know, it's a very patriarchal culture still. It's about 50 years behind the U.S., I think, in these, but still, people are making progress. People are trying to make strides, and Maria is certainly fighting the fight. I mean, because she's the model STEM, you know, PhD, get out there and make a person, despite the fact that she's surrounded by guys and they expect everyone to be guys. And the last person we really connected with in Peru was Andre. Andre is he has a house in Nazca, of the famous Nazca lines, you know, made by UFOs, ooh. Yeah, not really. But seriously, go there, take the flight, look at them. But Nazca is really kind of a backwater. It's like a little small town, not a lot of developments per se, dirt roads out in the desert. I mean, actually, the Mount Everest of sand dunes is there on the border of Nazca. You can see it from Andre's roof. You walk out, there like mountains, 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 sand dune, my. But I mean, of all this bunch I've gone through, he is the world traveler. He was really active on couch surfing, and he has a place open to people coming through from all over. While we were there, another couple of women from Australia were passing through, going the other way, and stayed at his place as well. So he was just opening his door to everyone who come through. And he himself is interested in going out. In fact, after we met him, I think while we were still on the trip, he got a job on a cruise ship cruising around the world. So we heard from him in Mozambique, we heard from him in Scotland. I mean, he's taking a tour around the place. While we were with Andre in Nazca, I mean, he helped us. Like we said, well, you know, we'd like to take this tour, but we're not sure. He said, oh yeah, come on, I'll hook you up. So he took us down to the tour place, set us up with the tour guides to go on the excursions. We probably should have looked more closely at what he was signing us up for, or we wouldn't have agreed to the dune buggies up and down the giant sand dunes. But, I mean, helped us get to the bus on time, you know, but he was great, and he's, you know, like I said, the young people, if they're willing to go out there and travel their country, Andre is the world traveler. I mean, he is just out there sailing the world right now. Of course, after we left Nazca, we went and did the obligatory Machu Picchu tour. Pictures online, it looks exactly in person like you see, except there are more people. And then we went up into Bolivia. And I'll be honest, I was kind of leery of going into Bolivia, just because I knew that aside from Venezuela's current meltdown, Bolivia is the poorest country in South America, except Venezuela right now. Doesn't matter, it's awesome. Love the country, love the people, it's vibrant, it's alive. Let me introduce you to the people of Bolivia. Just my dad posted the video that said, what did I just watch? Well, I'll tell you, that is a lady in complete traditional Bolivian dress, kicking another woman in complete traditional Bolivian dress in the throat in the middle of a wrestling ring. These are the Flying Cholitas. They put on a show every Sunday night in El Alto, which is the really high district up above La Paz, and it is you never have to watch a wrestling match again in your life after you've seen the Flying Cholitas, because nothing's gonna beat this show. But like I said, read the blog. There's more details. There's a video. But a lot of the stuff that we did on the tour was, yeah, we went to buses, we lived with people, but we did the tourist thing. We took tours, we took excursions sold by tour companies. So a lot of times we were in the hands of these tour guides. So the one I want to single out is like the ideal, the tour guides is Jose Luis. He is the third from the left here in this picture, the one with his thumbs up. He was our tour guide across the Salar de Uyuni. Now, the Salar de Uyuni is the highest salt flat in the world. It's a salt plain that is so level, satellites in orbit use it to calibrate their altimeters. We were in Jose Luis's hands for 3 solid days across the desert, and he was great. he did have to hotwire the Jeep every time to start it because the salt had corroded some important part inside, but that's okay. He drove us, he explained what we were seeing in Spanish. But you know what, I could still follow half of it, you know. He took us to and from our hotels every night. He carried food in the van with us, and he would serve lunch himself every day we were out on the plane seeing different sights. He even arranged a special side trip that wasn't on itinerary for Lea and I while we were out there. Because they have all these standard things you go see when you go see this large uni. There's these big saline lakes where the penguins congregate. There's one that's a brilliant green. There's one that's a bright red because of the algae growing in it. About, 10 years ago, they discovered a necropolis where this one culture had created all these cone-shaped mounds, look almost like termite mounds, but inside were the mummies of their dead. And this has just been discovered and excavated. A new museum had been put up, and it was sort of on the way, but it wasn't on the tour itinerary. We were like, hey, is it possible to go see this? And the tour company who sold us the tour was like, well, maybe not. Jose Luis made it happen. So like one morning, while everyone else was still sleeping, he's like, okay, come on, let's go. So we got up while everyone else was having breakfast, and we went out, and we had our own private tour of this newly discovered desert necropolis. That was just awesome that Jose Luis arranged for us. And everyone else with us was staying in Bolivia. We were transferring directly out of the park into Chile. So we got to the border. He took our passports for us. Went and got them stamped, brought them back, got us on the right bus. And so, some tour guides were good, some tour guides were bad. Some tour guides really went out of the way to make sure that we were able to enjoy what we were seeing. Jose Luis was one of the best at this. Then we were in Chile. There's a new kind of icon you'll see on the Chile map. The hearts were where we had meaningful interactions with people that we connected with. Once we got to Chile, we finally found the cats. Now, we had been cat deprived for months. One of the saddest things we did for going on this trip was giving our cat away temporarily to some friends to take care of while we were gone. And of course, Ecuador, Peru, Bolivia's dogs. Then finally we got to Valparaiso, and it's like, cats everywhere. So we just started to mark the cats. Any place that we had a cat that would actually spend time with us, live where we were staying, and would be our temporary adoptive cat for our stay. We had some cats we liked while we were down there. The big heart here is in Santiago. We spent more time in Chile than any other country on the trip. We spent 2 months in Chile, mainly because we sped through Peru faster than we expected to. And we spent 2 whole weeks in the city of Santiago. While we were there, we met a few people. And the first people we met was Gabriella. And this again, she kind of highlighted the idea that the people there want to enjoy their own sites in their area. There's a really high, Santiago is in a valley in the Andes. The city itself is pretty much flat. There's this one big hill in the middle of town with a statue of the Virgin Mary on top. Pro tip, every city in South America has a hill in the middle of it with a statue of Virgin Mary on top, and you're invited to walk all the way up there and view the statue. Gabriella contacted us we contacted her, we went to couchsurfing, and she had never been. So on one of our first days there, we arranged to go with Gabriella for our first hike and her first hike up this really tall mountain in the center of Santiago to enjoy the scenery and the statue and just all the people up there. We dragged ourselves up to the top, and there were people biking up and down this monster. Madness. But someone else we met in Santiago, and this guy was very important to us, was Arnulfo. Now, Arnulfo is a friend of someone that we know here in Atlanta. Lea not work with, but knows through work, a guy named Alex, who's from Chile and has family down there. And we knew that at some point on the trip, We couldn't take everything we needed with us when we left, because we knew we were going towards Patagonia, which is cold, and we would need heavy winter clothing. But we couldn't pack our heavy coats and carry them all the way around. Plus, we needed refills on like supplies for my CPAP or other kind of things in the way. So basically, we needed some way to send a shipment to South America and pick it up down there. It's kind of like you send a resupply to the space station, where Arnolfo was our guy on the space station to collect our resupply launch. And he actually went, our assistant down here was actually really late in shipping it, and Arnolfo actually went and dealt with Chilean customs for us to get our box out of Chilean customs and delivered to us. And so it was just really good to know people, or have someone who knows people where you're going. It's going to really help you out. Because if we hadn't got that box, we wouldn't have been able to make it through the next 3 months of the trip. We would have been hating ourselves. Or we would have been going back to Bolivia to buy the really heavy alpaca wool coats to get through. This picture, actually, Arnolfo also took us to one of the more upscale restaurants in a really nice part of Santiago that otherwise we probably wouldn't have gone to on our own because we're cheapskates when we travel. And actually, Arnolfo should be coming to Atlanta at some point. We're really hoping to hook up with him again up here. One more, and this is not someone really connected with, but I want to point out, David here is the tour guide for the Undurraga winery in Chile. And I put him up here because first, his English was great, so finally I got to understand one of the tours we were on. And it was really interesting, and he gave us a tour of the Undurraga winery south of Santiago. And I want to bring him up just to talk about some part of the culture down there that really hits when you're in Chile. It really hits you when you get into Chile and Argentina, and that's that the wine is very good and very cheap. We found one particular wine style, vintage, type, whatever, Undurraga Carmenere that was like $3 a bottle. We loved it. While we're staying in Santiago, we would drink a bottle a night. Like the store down the street from us, the guy who recognized us when we came in and just pulled one off the shelf. There you go. But so one other thing we did was we went and we toured places, and there were people who did the tours. David was one of the really good ones about explaining everything going on. Plus he poured wine for us, which is also special to do. And like I said, there were the cats. This was the first. We didn't really come across cats until we got to Valparaiso, and this guy was apparently the owner of our hostel we were staying in. So I was sitting there writing my blog, and he got in my lap and stuck his claws right through my shirt and just sat there and demanded I pet him for a couple hours. Okay. We turned the corner just after Christmas. We started coming back through Argentina. See a lot more cats in Argentina. A few more people we met there that I might be able to get to, but that one little heart right in the middle is in this little tiny mountain town you've never heard of and probably never will, called Trevelin, settled by the Welsh, believe it or not. There are a couple of Welsh settlements. So all the people we saw were Argentinians, but like all the street names were Welsh down there. But it was in Trevelin that we met and stayed with a lady named Paula. Now it says Paula, but remember Spanish, you pronounce each vowel, so it's Paula. That's Leah's sister Lisa, who traveled with us for a couple of weeks through Patagonia. And Paola was a friend of Lisa's who she had known while doing work with a fair trade organization in Bolivia. So Lisa hadn't seen Paola for a long time, but when we got to Trevelin, it had been a very, very bad travel day. Let me go back to the map. You see that kind of, we're going up north and there's that big bend sideways when you go back. We should have just gone straight north, but the buses were sold out. So to get from where the cat is to where the heart is, instead of going straight up, we had to go all the way to the coast and come all the way back. So it should have been an 8-hour bus ride. It was more like a 20-hour transit day that began at 1 o'clock in the morning when we walked up to the bus station. So we were dead tired. Paola welcomed us into her home. She was in a one-bedroom duplex with a little small yard of its own and a few wild cats that had decided that they lived there in our place with their kittens. But she welcomed us into her house. At first, I didn't think our luggage was going to fit in the car. She's like, no, it'll fit. Come on, get all that going on. But I was in her house. We slept late. We recovered. She made pizza for us and would not stop. In fact, Lea and Lisa stopped eating it, made me finish off the rest. Like, our pizza's here, pizza, come on. But, we used her laundry machine. We hung up our clothes in the yard. She just really made us at home at her place. And just to make sure that we enjoyed the experience of staying with her in this little small town, she also introduced us to her friends, Nicolas and Mariana. That's me, Lisa, Paola, Nicolas, Lea, and Mariana, and they were having a real Argentinian cookout, which meant about 6 different kinds of meat and sausage and blood sausage all on the grill, and boy, was it good. I mean, Argentina is known for its meat. You go to the restaurants, or we did, there weren't necessarily the best cooked or the best variety of stuff in the restaurants, but the meat itself was outstanding. And you get a home grill situation like this is the way to go. Just find someone in Argentina and make them grill meat for you. It's fantastic. So, and you'll notice also in this picture that everyone else's wine glass is still partially full and mine isn't. Let's just say that I'm an early adopter at this point in the trip when it comes to. But the amazing thing, and this is, these complete strangers to us. Lisa knew Paola, none of us had met Nicolas and Mariana before, and they planned an excursion for us the next day, where we're going to apparently go to the national park nearby and take a boat to this beach. So we're imagining that this is like a public park, it'll be a public boat, we're going to go to some public beach and spend the afternoon. No, Nicolas and Mariana own a sailboat. So completely surprised to us, we get down there to this beach, and they pull up with this sailboat, another friend of theirs, and they sail us out like an hour and a half across this really long glacial lake to this secluded beach that no one can ever find or knows there and cannot access any other way, and pull up, and they just spend the day with us, having leftovers from the grill the night before, and drinking about 6 or 7 bottles of wine on the way. Okay, well, I only partook of like 5 or 6 of them, so I was still recovering from the night before. But I mean, this is the kind of place that we would never have found walking around on our own. We would have never found this had we bought a tour from a tour company. But just some friends of friends said, hey, let's just take these people out. And it was probably one of the most gorgeous landscapes you could ever ask for, and it was all ours for the day. We got up into Brazil, and we hit kind of the language barrier. Because, of course, Brazil, they speak Portuguesa, pero no falo português, solo español. Or maybe I don't even speak Espanol that well, but we had hoped. It's like when you travel to some parts of the world, English is a good second language. Even if you don't speak the local language, you can find people who speak English. So we didn't expect to find English speakers in Brazil, but we had thought that being in South America, we would find other Spanish speakers to communicate with. No. South America is a very monolingual continent. In Brazil, once we crossed over to Brazil, no one spoke a word of Spanish. There were more English speakers in Brazil than Spanish speakers we found. But still, because of the language barrier, it was kind of hard to make, really close connections with people. However, we were finally able to beach, and so I want to take a minute here to talk about one type of person we would interact with the whole way around, and that's the vendors. You have the people with the stores who sell stuff, but there are also the people who just sell stuff on the street, or it's a common thing in South America on the buses. People will get on a bus with a list of things to sell, you'll have like a bag full of just walk up into the bus selling candy and get off the next stop. Or someone will come on the bus and have like Band-Aids, thank you. Band-Aids, everything you can imagine. And of course, we're always like, no thank you, no thank you, no thank you, you know. They weren't aggressive. It's not like Caribbean aggressive salesmanship. They just walk on and say, here's what I have. Sometimes they would have like a whole speech they would give and then like walk up and down the bus or the train or wherever on selling things. When we got to Brazil, this is when we first got to places where they had like, honest to God, warm, sunny beaches you could sit on, so the beach vendors would come by. And let me tell you, I have been waiting the entire trip for this particular vendor. This is the little beach hut selling caipirinhas, caipiroskas. Caipirinha is the national drink of Brazil. It's basically limeade with rum. Caipirosca is limeade with vodka, and whatever else. I'm making myself out to be like an alcoholic now that I come back from South America. I was trying. But there's also the guys, this guy here, that do this thing in Brazil. That is a brazier of hot coals that he's swinging there in his hand. And in his other hand, he's got mozzarella on a stick. So he comes by, you say, hey, I want some of that. And he like sticks mozzarella, rolls it in oregano, and then grills it in front of you while standing in the surf and toasts it. Then you pay them some like pathetically small amount of money, and you have toasted oregano mozzarella on a stick on a beach in Brazil. So, you know, I've always kind of been leery of people selling things. I have bad interactions with aggressive vendors and salesmen in Africa and the Caribbean and Mexico and places, but in South America, they weren't aggressive, they weren't in your face, they weren't pushing like buy stuff. They were just there offering things, and you know, some of the stuff you needed. I mean, we bought like a electrical cord adapter on the street. Guy had it on a blanket on the street for sale. We knew that. I bought insoles for my shoes, just there off the street. The guy had them. $2. Yes, I need insoles. Thank you. And as long as we're immersing in the culture, I need to mention that we did make it to Rio just in time for the end of Carnival. So standing there with this crowd of party people washing around you, you don't immerse yourself in the culture more than that, literally. This was the last big parade. And let me tell you, a parade in Brazil for Carnival is not what you're thinking of as a parade. You're imagining a parade, you're imagining sitting on the sidewalk, watching a procession go by, and then the whole parade processes by, and then it's done and you go home. No. A parade in Rio is a block party that moves. There's like one float, one band, one set of dancers maybe, and just all the people crowding around it. And then after about 15 to 20 minutes of partying and dancing in one spot, the entire mass moves half a block down the street, and then it starts all over again. And more people arrive, more people leave, people arrive. It's like the whole party just inches down the street. And of course, Lea and I, being the traditionalists, you know, we're standing in the shelter of a beer vendor here. The beer vendor was stationary, the crowds kind of moved around us, and just, you've never seen so many happy people to be alive. Anyway. One question we get before and after coming back is, did you feel safe from the people while you were down there? You know, did you ever feel in danger from the people who were out there? And I would say, yeah, you're in danger of having everything you have stolen from you by these little buggers. That's a kawachi. It's a South American raccoon, and they know that humans carry stuff they want. I saw a woman taking a selfie of herself in front of one of the big waterfalls, Foz do Iguazu down there, and one of these guys went right into her purse behind her back and took her lunch out and ran off before she even knew what had happened. That's my camera gear that I'm trying to explain is not edible to this fella right here. He's not buying it. He wants to see inside. I'm sure if he had a knife, he would have pulled it on me. who we did really, I think, connect with, had a great experience with in Brazil. And I'm so ashamed we do not have a picture of her to share. I even went online because she was a hostess from one of the from a homestay stated that we used on Booking.com was the website that I used to arrange all of our stays there. You know, I looked on Booking to see if we can get a picture of Doña Hari, was her name, R-A-D-I, pronounced Hari. But we were in the town of Lençóis, which is not in the Amazon, but it's in a national park called Chapada Diamantina. But we had booked all these tours to see the sites around there, and we booked a room in her place to stay. And it really was, when you do these things, you're never quite sure what you get, but this was really a homestay. It was a room in her house. And we had just rented the room. We hadn't bought a meal plan or anything, but she cooked for us every morning and every night that we were there. She was just a sweet, grandmotherly figure. We could hardly talk because she always spoke Portuguese. It was a question of hand signals and finding words that were in common, you know. But this is in the Bahia. I have a picture of flan here. In place to tell you a story. In the Bahia province of Brazil, they make the best flan in the world. And Lea somehow we had like some of Mama Hari's flan along with one of these unasked for dinners that she gave on to us. And Lea had been trying to ask her, what's the recipe? What's the recipe? How do I make this? I want to make this. So I don't think that quite translated, because instead of giving us the recipe, she made us an entire flan, about 10 times the size of this one. Yeah. This is like that big on a plate. She made like a whole bundt cake size. We came home from our tour tired and exhausted, and for dinner there was flan. We hated to go. We really hated to go and to leave, and I really hated to picture Mama Hari because she was the sweetest little lady. We couldn't verbally communicate at all, but she welcomed us, made us, you know, she welcomed us to her house, made us feel at home, and just, you know. So really all I could do was give her a 10-star review on Booking.com and tell everyone, stay here, don't go to the hotels, stay here. At last we got to Colombia. We were kind of tired by the time we got to Colombia, and we got actually, it had always been so far away on our trip, we didn't really plan Colombia very much. It's like we were like a few weeks away from Colombia, like, oh, we're going to be in Colombia, what are we going to do there, where are we going to go? To find something. We did. We found some tours and some sites and some routes to take us to some nice places, but at the end of our trip, at the very end, the little heart at the very top was where the trip ended in Cartagena. In Cartagena, we met Daniel. Now, this is Lea, our friend Melissa from Nashville, who came down with another friend, KT, to stay with us in Cartagena that last week, and Daniel. Daniel was our taxi driver. Now, we avoided taking taxis for 10 months. Right off the bat in Quito, we had some bad experience with taxi drivers, you know, either not wanting to pick us up or taking us the long way around to jack up the fare, or I had one guy in Santiago, I was watching on Google Maps him take the longest route possible to get, because I missed the bus, I had to meet up with Lea who made the bus, and you know, so it was just like, in my mind, I developed this horrible prejudice against taxi drivers as a class of person, as just, you know, you think of politicians and lawyers and like insurance people. I'm sorry if I'm talking to you all there, you know, all the stereotypical people that people make jokes about you don't trust. And to me, taxi drivers top of the list. Daniel was our taxi driver there. We took a bus and got to our apartment, and then we had to go pick up our friends from the airport. And on the way to the airport, our taxi driver's random chance was Daniel. He's from Medellin, where they speak Spanish that is accented in such a way that Leo could, and I really could understand fairly well. But, we could communicate with this guy. There were so many places where the accents in Spanish are so thick that, we had a hard time communicating. We could talk with him, and he was cool, and he sat there and waited for us at the airport for our friends to arrive and to take everyone back. So we'd asked Daniel if he would just be our taxi driver for the whole week in Cartagena. And he said, yeah. So we had some trips, we had some specific trips we planned, and he was just there for us in the morning. There was one specific excursion. This is at a artificial saline lake salt place. Yeah, it's a farm for salt, but also it's pink because of chemicals, so flamingos get there, and people go there for the pink seas, the pink lake, whatever. There was a mud volcano that was on the way, and he was just our tour guide for the day. Instead of arranging a tour from the company and be on a big bus with all the other tours, we said, hey Dana, can you take us these places? He's like, sure. So on days when for some other reason Daniel couldn't be there, he would arrange for someone else to pick us up. In fact, we went so far as we said to him that, Daniel, we really love the food in South Colombia. Is there any place in Cartagena where they make food like they do in South Colombia? He said, yeah, I know the place. He picked us up at night, he took us there, he stayed there with us and talked with us the whole time we ate, and just took us back to our hotels. He was our friend in Cartagena. We didn't stay with him, but he was just always there for us. The last day, he couldn't take us to the airport, so he arranged two of his buddies at no cost to him at all, just two of his friends to come and pick us up and take care of us. Completely changed my prejudice against taxi drivers, and I'm thankful for that. I just said he wasn't there for the last day to see us off as we left the ship on the way back. We didn't really bring any souvenirs back, except for me, I brought a couple. I asked who was at my rum party before we left. The collection has started again. If you look closely, you'll see that I'm not entirely sure how legal it was to bring in the country, because it made in Havana, but anyway, there they are. But that was, this is the sunset from our last balcony in South America, and that was a trip with some of the people we met. So I'd love to take any questions about the people, or the travel, or the experience, or what y'all want to know. Here I am. Good.
What did you take with you?
We took with us, we took 4 backpacks, 2 big Deuter hiking packs, and 2 smaller backpacks we could use as day packs for when we took day trips or small trips. My specific day pack was a low pro, which was designed for camera gear, because I had this nice Canon thing with extra lenses, so it has a whole compartment with extra lenses in. When we did the long travel though, we packed the big backpacks and the small backpacks as far as they would go. So we were both carrying, we were both carrying 50 kilos? No. Yeah, about 50 kilos total, about 25 kilos each, about 50 pounds. So, and of course it carried a small one in the front, blue in the back. It felt like being an astronaut in a spacesuit. Now, what was in the backpack, we carried 4 changes of clothes. We would wear the clothes 2 days each. So we only had to do laundry about once a week. We took, of course, I was kind of in the line because I needed a CPAP. So I had to take this heavy CPAP and mask and tubing and all that. We had to take, since we were spending so much time in the Andes, which were cold, but we're also spend time in some hot areas too. We kind of had to split the difference between hot clothes and warm clothes. So we had long pants for all the outfits. We had a couple shorts that but we didn't really wear those because, frankly, except in Brazil, we never saw people just wearing shorts out on the street. People wear long pants. And so we had a combination of long shirts and short sleeve shirts. We took jackets with us the whole way. Because especially down the West Coast, it's cold the whole way. Even when we came back to Colombia, while we were in Bogotá, it was still cool there. It wasn't until we got down out of the mountains, it really became hot and warm again. We took two first aid kits. One is kind of like the supply stash you want to take with us, and we used more of the first aid kits than we really thought we would, but it's good we took all this stuff. Cold medicine, other medicine, I don't know, what else do we take that I'm not thinking of? Electronics, yeah. Since I was going to blog and write way down, I had my laptop. Lea had a tablet. We had our cell phones. We had chargers for all this. We had, and this was vital, we had, we took two, what do you call them? Step-down converters. Because except for Colombia and Ecuador, which are on 110 voltage like US plug, it's not just that the plugs are different shapes and sizes. The electrical current is a different current. It's 220 instead of 110. So that means even if you have a different plug on your thing, you plug into the wall and in Chile or Argentina, there's a good chance you're going to blow out your electronics because it's going to be 220 voltage instead of 110. So we've got these devices that we would plug in the wall that would lower the voltage from 220 down to a US 110. They were kind of heavy, but it was good we brought them because we had a lot of stuff to charge.
Actually, you forgot, the things that were the most annoying to carry, we ended up having to carry a spatula.
We bought one. We bought
Right, we
one.
bought a spatula, we bought some Tupperware, we bought salt, Splenda, like little sugar packets or whatever, and a wine bottle opener.
Yeah, because
And had to carry it with us. I mean,
Because
that was
not one hostel or apartment really had what we would call a fully stocked kitchen. There was always something missing. The spatula was the most common, aside from just pots and pans that we weren't going to carry ourselves. But yeah, just other little necessities. Hot sauce. We found some hot sauce. We carried some hot sauce around. Well, yeah, because the food there's like potatoes, like a little bit of beef or chicken with some potatoes and some noodles and some rice. We need hot sauce. Anyone else? Questions? Yes.
What did you miss the most about the U.S. while you were away? And now that you've been back for a month, what do you miss the most about South America or Latin America?
What was psychologically hard for me, I think, all the time was, just kind of general sense of not really understanding everything that was going on around me. So that kind of broad, like, what's going on? I don't know where I'm supposed to be. That plus, me, I'm kind of a homebody. I missed having like the same roof over my head every night. You know, for me, like the kind of feeling of just, I'm a homeless person traveling around the world, and you know, just that. But you also ask, what do we miss us?
What do you miss now that you're back?
That we're back to America.
Or what is
You know, well, to take away is kind of like the sizes and amounts of quantities of things you buy. And in certain parts of South America, especially Ecuador, Peru, places like that, you can get like single serving of whatever you need. If you see a small bit of something, and that's all you need, you can get it. Just down at the corner store, walk out the door a couple blocks, just get a little small bit of whatever you need. You know, and just trying to think, missing one down there.
people being outside.
Yeah, that was the thing, I didn't mention that. One thing that was kind of consistent all the way through South America is that people are out. They're out in the streets, they're out on the sidewalks, they're out in the parks, they're talking, they're living their lives, all out in the open. In America, we live like in hermetically sealed places. We go from one air-conditioned building to our air-conditioned car to the next air-conditioned building, you know, and like you walk across the street and you see Cheshire Park here, and you know, you might see a couple people golfing, and that's it. Whereas if you were to walk down like that, especially the public area in South America, that would be full of people. Just full of people out for the evening, strolling, sitting, doing whatever, playing games, whatever is out in public. You know, they're not. it's very outdoorsy. The whole continent is very outdoorsy, not just nature outdoors, just in their city going outside. And that's kind of like a shock. Here in America, we're all like huddled up in our little enclosed spaces.
Yeah, like even the parts of town you think of like pedestrian friendly areas, like little 5-1. You know, we live down on Decatur, at Oakland Cemetery. There's nobody outside. Where is everybody? Like this is a city of 5 million people. Where are they? They're in their cars, they're in their houses.
Yeah.
So it's really shocking to get home and all of a sudden, instead of being surrounded all the time, and you know, I mean, you interact with people just because you're all together or whatever, you know, even if it's 2 minutes on the bus, but
Yeah.
like even the buses here are empty. I mean, we get on the bus, there's like 200 people on the bus. You know, I almost lost my pants one day in Brazil because I was trying to squeeze on the bus and they were stretched out and I got stuck and my pants came off.
On that note, Ray.
Yeah, in the sequence I noticed went from Brazil to
Colombia.
So
Yeah.
So you traveled on a bus and all the way through to the
No,
Amazon?
no.
Avoiding
We flew from Salvador. Logically, if you're going to do the circuit, if you look at a map, you would think, okay, you start in Colombia or Brazil, and you just bus all the way around and you fly back to the U.S. A couple of things we read. One thing we read said, do not take the land crossing between Colombia and Ecuador, you will get kidnapped. So that added a flight right there if we were to start in Colombia and come down. Plus, the Spanish schools were better in Ecuador. So it made more sense if we want to start in the immersion class to start in Ecuador and go down from there. And finally, it's so expensive to fly back from Brazil directly to the US. It was less than half as much to fly from Brazil to Colombia, get off there, and fly from Colombia back to the US. So it ended up making sense from like a cost and flight perspective to put Colombia last. So now we just barely scratched Brazil. We just didn't get to go to the Amazon at all. There's just so much of the country we did not get a chance to see because it's so huge. Continental Brazil is larger than the lower 48 US. And we just saw a little tiny smidge of it. But once we were in Salvador, to get to the next phase and get to Colombia, we flew. Now, funny story. Our tickets were booked on Avianca Brazil. The last time we flew Avianca was in Guatemala, where our flight was canceled because the plane had broke down and they needed parts, so we had to wait till the next day. In Brazil, we were going to fly direct from Salvador to Bogota, but we never get the email to check in for our flight. So we go online looking for our flight, and our flight's not there, and Avianca Brazil has gone bankrupt. So we rushed to the airport, to the poor Avianca terminal, saying, "But where's our flight?" And I'm sure that these clerks were having some of the worst days of their lives. We were told they hadn't been paid for a month. They're still working, they're trying to get, some flights were still flying, but they had canceled like all the ones that flew to Colombia back. And they worked out a way, without charging us any extra, to get us from Salvador to Bogota. They're like, okay, we have a way to get you there. You have to get on the plane right now. We flew from Salvador all the way back down to Porto Alegre, which is the port city at the south of Brazil. We flew from there, skipped one. We flew from Salvador to Sao Paulo to Porto Alegre. They put us up for free in the Hotel Indigo by the airport that night. Got up early the next morning, flew back to Lima, and from Lima up to Bogota. So it's like we reversed our entire trip in one day and night of air travel. But yeah, we skipped Brazil. We did not get to go to Venezuela because of the current political situation and just the sheer chaos, which saddens us because we really would like to go to Venezuela. There's like Angel Falls. There's a lake there where there's lightning all the time. Plus, just moving for people in Venezuela. But we didn't get a chance. We're hoping one day, if things settle out, we'll be able to go back and see some Venezuela, and see some more Brazil, and see some more Bolivia, because those need some closer inspection. We were also scoping out these places we wouldn't mind living in the future, be like to work or like retire to. And we kind of think our favorites, if we want to expat to South America one day, would either be Colombia, specifically around Medellin, or southern Chile, like Santiago, or the places south of Santiago. We're kind of like the spots where we could see ourselves living someday in retirement. But there's a big wide world out there too, so. Who else? That's what
Your blog, where can we find your blog?
Yeah, okay. The escapehatch.net.
You will definitely link it in Meetup on Facebook and all that stuff afterwards.
I will do this. In fact, I have a table of contents page for the entire South America trip. Because right now I'm doing a series of articles on how to move back to the US. So I'm going to write one tomorrow on the travails of trying to get health insurance as we came back to the US. We sort of have insurance, but you know, it's not maybe. Yeah, I will. On your phone, if you hit the little hamburger in the corner, there's like a menu. I think you can get to the South America table of contents there. If not, I'll link to the South America table of contents page in the Sunday Assembly group and things, just so you can see the entire trip there and watch videos of the flying cheerleaders in Bolivia who throw each other to the mat. Because it's awesome. Well, thank you.
Thank you so much, Jared. I wonder if you had to go to Spatula City to get that spatula. It's a giant warehouse of spatulas for every occasion. That is a Weird Al joke that I was hoping Jared might appreciate.
Good job, I caught it.
So, I think I can even go ahead and invite the band up here because after this is going to be our collection. So yes, that is inviting Jared right up here. But anyway, Sunday Assembly is more than just this monthly event. There are all sorts of other events that we do, and I want to share some of them. So anybody can be a part of this band. Tim, this is you now. So the band, we're just a bunch of volunteers who meet once a week on Sundays at Anna's place. And if you play an instrument, if you don't, if you know how to sing, if you don't, there's a place for you, right? So like we pass out those tambourines, that's the level that we're talking about. Okay? It's not too bad. So it's really fun, and we pick songs that we want to do that are maybe thematic or just fun. And so everyone is encouraged to join. Wonder Club, we have this every month. That's on usually the last Friday of the month, and I believe Marla and Ashley are going to be leading this one, and it's a discussion group. It's a lovely thing, and I don't know what it's about, but it's always really good when Marla and Ashley do a thing, I can assure you. So I would definitely look out for the email on that one. It takes place at the Rush Center just down the street. Secular Support Group, this is a group that meets every 2 weeks, and we meet on Tuesdays at Lori's house. And so if you are someone who needs, if you're going through something and you want to talk to people who you know are not going to, suggest Jesus as the answer, that's the place for you, because that, if you're working through something, that's not an answer that you are interested in. It can be kind of a bummer to, disconnect with someone that way. So it's a lovely space. Definitely check all these events out on Meetup. And then last but definitely not least, so I mentioned this last month, but there's going to be the yearly gathering of a bunch of Sunday Assembly people. It's going to be taking place in Nashville. It's going to be in October, as you can see in this lovely image. And I put together a form that you can fill out that simply says, hey, I'm interested. It's not a commitment, right? It's just I want to be on the list of people who follow up with okay, maybe I'll join the carpool, or okay, I'll join and try and find an Airbnb, these kinds of things. So these events are always super, super cool and inspiring and make you go, whoa, Sunday Assembly has a lot of potential and provides a lot of value. And it's a place where you have a lot of fun and you think about what the future of it is, and you can get down and dirty and figuring out what the next steps are, or putting together a new project. It's a really great time. I highly recommend it. The one in 2015 was in Atlanta. It is the reason that like I am here doing this. And I was in Edinburgh last year for that one, and it was also wonderful. And you also get to enjoy the city you're in, so Nashville is great. And our Sunday Assembly Nashville buddies were super nice. The next assembly we're going to do, we're going to have an outdoor potluck picnic just right outside there in Candler Park. So that's going to be lovely. And as always, it's always on the third Sunday, and it'll be kind of a dinner thing. So hopefully everyone will enjoy that. If you don't know, we have those cool purple shirts that some folks are wearing, and they are really cool. They're $10, and they are lovely. I have two. One has paint on it because I wore it when I was volunteering one time. Whatever.
Ross, where's the form that you were mentioning?
So the form is at this link right here, where I said sundayassembly.atlanta.org/conference. That's all it is. And I will also link that, so I guess I'll steal your thunder on you sharing your cool thing. But it's just a quick form. So, cool. And if you've got a Sunday Assembly LA shirt, please let me know, because I have a box of them and I don't know whose they are. And I would love to, and don't lie, I guess, to me. I don't know. Okay, and finally, thank you to those who brought food for the potluck, to volunteers who helped do all sorts of big and small things to make this event possible, whether it's like moving tables out or putting together a piece of the assembly, and everybody who helps make this lovely community what it is. So I really appreciate it. Go for it.
Okay, it's kind of loud, Mike, so I'll step back for a minute. Two announcements. One, when Lea and I moved back, we discovered that we kept things or owned things that we did not actually need anymore. So in the far back table here are possessions that are free to a good home. They include a microwave, a crock pot, a Netgear router, and wireless modem, and a Roku, and other things. There's lots of cables and things. Take a look at the table back there, and anything that vanishes tonight, you're welcome to it.
Ooh.
Announcement two, Leah's going to start trying to bring some South American dishes to our potlucks in the coming months. So tonight, there will be some cazuela de frijoles, which is a traditional Colombian bean stew on the table. So y'all enjoy that.
That sounds rad. Okay, that is wonderful. Thank you for sharing. We're going to play a song, and while we're doing that, we're going to be having our collection where some folks are going to be coming around and passing baskets. What's up? Oh, okay. You want to talk about that right now? Okay, Anna's going to talk about that right now.
A long time ago, I was a member of this congregation here, where we meet here in this building, First Existentialist. And we had a book that was in the back. It was on a pedestal, and it was called The Book of the Dead. And what it was just this separate book, and if you had lost a loved one, you could open the book, write your name, and talk about that, express your feelings about how you felt about that person. I had bought a book of remembrance for this group, and it's going to be on a pedestal in the back of the room, and it'll be the same kind of thing. If you have lost a loved one, and you want to write in the book about that, you can. So, yeah.
Thank you for sharing that. I think it's going to be a really lovely, it's hard to pick the right word, right? It's not like a lovely thing, but it's a meaningful thing. And I think it's a testament to the longevity of what we're looking for, right? Like the longer we're here, right? We've existed for 5 years, that we have had people come and go. And I mean that in the smallest sense and in the grandest sense. I think this project is really cool. So please, I don't look forward to having to write into it, but I think it'll be a lovely place to capture those feelings. Branching off of that, I guess now going to just ask for money. Cool. No, I'm not going to apologize for that, right? Like Sunday Assembly costs money to have these events, to have the community that we do, and it is really important to have that financial support, as well as the volunteering support. And so we're all volunteer run. We're a 501c3. And we need money, volunteers' time to help make this possible. And this is one part of keeping us afloat. So I'll just read directly. Hey, your generous donation enables us to host events to help others. build and serve this community and enjoy the one life we know we have. So, I hope you feel encouraged to give while we play this song. I'll say, hey, sundaysummitatlanta.org/donate. That's the place for... Say what?
Reoccurring donation.
I know, right?
Yeah.
The reoccurring donation thing is so easy. It's so easy, I mean, I do it. And then there's other ways of doing it, like the cash is obvious with the baskets, but again, if you have PayPal, if you have Venmo, right, Tim loves to Venmo it up, and I like every single one of his donations, so if you want to like, you have to donate anyway. So, there are all sorts of ways we would be really grateful if you would give. So, I think I'm going to pass this over to somebody else, because we're about to play a fun song. Who would like to play? All right, I'm going to go play drums now. Yeah, just a nice little pop. Just pop it on.
This song is going to flow like a majestic sea turtle.
On the way,
Thank you so much. I've done that song a couple times. It's a lovely one. Let's see what's beyond the turtle. Beyond the turtle is the icebreaker that we're going to kind of roll into the potluck. So, in light of everything that Jared just shared about his trip, I would encourage everybody to reflect upon what people have you met in your travels that you had a close connection with in that exact way. Whether it was your taxi driver or someone who stayed with you or who served you wine and spoke enough English that you speak fluently with someone. So if we could get maybe small groups of 3 or 4 or something, we'll chat about that, and we can then go to the potluck. So let's do it.